touchy for some people, but I think it's a really important subject to talk about, and it is breast cancer. Now, Carolyn's going to talk about her experience with breast cancer. So, Carolyn, take it away, please.
So I'm really passionate about this for a number of reasons, but essentially in March, April, I don't even know what year it was, 2.5 years ago, I felt something wasn't right in my breasts. And I went to the doctor and they sent me for a mammogram and an ultrasound. And I was told, you're okay. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing there. And I thought, all right. So, of course, you put it to your side of your mind. You go, all right, I'm just going to move on with life. 6 months later, I looked in the mirror and my breasts they looked different. They looked totally different. And I mean, I'm not someone that looks at my boobs in the mirror. So it was sort of a shock. And I thought, something's not right here. And there was a part of me that said, oh, well, you got tested 6 months ago. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Don't go to the doctors. Just leave it. And then there was a niggling little voice that kept saying, you need to go to the doctors. You need to go to the doctors. And it took a few days to get into my GP. And when I saw her, she was wonderful. She handled it so well because I went by myself. I didn't think anything was wrong. She said, oh, look, protocol dictates that because there's such a significant change in 6 months, we need to send you to a surgeon and he'll do more. He'll check you out more. And I said, all right. And by the time I'd walked out of there, she'd already booked the surgeon for me the following Monday. And I went to that appointment. This time I did bring my husband. I didn't go alone. And again, he was so wonderful. He just said, you know what, we need to do an MRI because you've got dense breast tissue and we can't see what's going on. And if they find something, they will do a biopsy. And I thought, all right. And he was so wonderful. He actually, this is a specialist, a surgeon. He picked up his mobile phone and made the appointment right in front of me himself. And I went in the day after, I did the MRI, and within half an hour of that, they said, we need you to come back tomorrow for a biopsy. Went back in on the Wednesday for the biopsy. By the time I went in the following Monday, he told me it was interesting. He didn't say I had cancer. He was just reading the report and he said the word carcinoma or something like that. And I said, hang on a minute, that's breast cancer. And he goes, yes. And I was in surgery this was all along Melbourne Cup weekend. So I was in surgery the following Wednesday. We were just coming out of COVID at the time. So my husband couldn't walk me in. He could only take me to the hospital. And I was in hospital by myself for that period of time, no visitors. And yeah, that's where I remember joking with the staff the whole time because that was my nature, laughing when I sort of was wheeled into surgery. I did have a full mastectomy. My cancer was 6.8 centimetres. So it was a decent size. So whether they missed it 6 months prior or whether it just grew that fast in such a short amount of time. They also took 8 lymph nodes. And I often wonder if I hadn't listened to that voice, whether it would have spread. I was blessed that it didn't go into my lymph nodes. And then I went through the following, checkups that they do, and I was offered chemotherapy, but my oncologist had said to me, look, this kind of cancer doesn't usually respond to chemo that well. He said, you can do it if you want, but I don't. He goes, if you were my wife, I'd probably suggest you don't, but it's entirely up to you. So I chose not to do the chemo. But I did have 25 treatments of radiation, which was quite intense, and that was over summer. Anyone that's gone through radiation knows it's a real burning feeling, and it's like an accumulative effect. The actual radiation doesn't hurt, but about day 12 or 13, everything starts to blister and it's quite uncomfortable. And then after that, I was told I needed to be on medication for 7 odd years for my estrogen. They needed to pull the estrogen out of my body. I also needed an injection once a month. That didn't work. So 2 months into that, I had my ovaries taken out and they put me instantly into menopause. I am still on medication. And yeah, so I'm really passionate about telling people, please check your boobs. And if you're not happy, get a second opinion, or if something changes, go back. Don't wait a year, because if I'd waited a year, it would have been a totally different story.
You may not have even been here.
And that's the scary thing. So I'm so blessed that I'm so grateful I listened to that voice.
Yeah.
And now all I need to deal with is really intense hot flushes, which are great.
Intense hot flushes. You're laying in bed and your legs are slipping off each other and you're dripping with sweat. And it's just such a lovely feeling, isn't it?
I've timed them. I've had hot flushes last up to half an hour. It's pretty
Oh, really?
intense. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's pretty intense. But what's the feeling like now? So you had a mastectomy,
On one side, yes.
right? Did you have a
I haven't had a reconstruction yet. They couldn't reconstruct straight away because they always said I was going to have the radiation, irrespective of whether I chose chemo or not. Radiation was always on the table.
yeah,
And so they didn't want to do the reconstruction at that point because the tissue would be destroyed from the radiation.
yeah,
Um, I could have gone about a year ago, but that whole year from my mastectomy, I had an interesting year. And after my ovaries were taken out, I then had a colonoscopy, gastroscopy, and my gallbladder out. So within 12 months, I was put under 4 times. And I think my body just needed a break. So I just said no surgery for a year.
thank goodness for that.
So
Just
I remember I
had,
struggled getting out of, yeah.
had your gallbladder out as well. Goodness
I
me.
had a I had a dysfunctional gallbladder, again, different to what most people have. So it wasn't gallstones, it was literally pulsating. And it had been doing it for 2 years. And I thought, what is going on? And it literally felt, anyone that's been pregnant, it felt like a baby kicking, but ongoing until, and my ribs felt bruised. So it's called a dysfunctional gallbladder. And yeah, when the surgeon took it out, he said it was pretty bad. So I took a year off surgery because I thought, let me have a break. Um,
It's like you saying you've taken a year off surgery. It's like, I'm taking a gap year.
I took a gap year, and now I'm looking into reconstruction. So they'll be able to use my own tummy fat, which is really good. So they use my own body
Yeah,
to fill in the area.
and less rejection.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, because it comes from you, which is great. I remember I've met a lot of women who have had mastectomies both and never had reconstruction. Or I remember one lady when I was teaching exercise class, and she had both the mastectomies of both breasts. And she used to get embarrassed because I used to teach aqua classes, and she would go into a change room by herself to change because she was embarrassed. I said, the women here would understand. You don't need to hide. And eventually she was quite comfortable with that. But it's something that can tear you apart if you let it.
I while I've navigated through this fairly well, there are times when because I've just got a big scar across my right side. Obviously, I wear a prosthetic, which is great. Medicare cover the cost of most of a prosthetic, but and there was a time when I thought, will I get a reconstruction? Because I'm fine with it, and I'll show people a scar. It's just a scar now. But the challenge for me is when I'm going to look. We've got a few weddings coming up, and trying to find a dress that I can wear with the type of bra I need to wear because of the prosthetic is very limiting. So I look at photos of myself, 3 years ago where I'd have a beautiful strapless dress, and I can no longer do that. So I have to admit, it does get to me sometimes. It's a bit like, when you're at a wedding, you don't want your bra strap showing.
But think of the elegance that you can create with whatever you wear, because there can be a real elegance with something draped over your shoulders, and you could wear a strapless dress with something draped over your shoulders with elegance. So there's
Yeah.
lots of ways that you can get around that. I think it's just having to be more creative in what you can wear, but those things, and your bra straps will look like the straps of the dress through whatever it is, if it's sheer or whatever, but
Yeah.
it can still be elegant. You can wear some gorgeous jewelry that distracts from whatever it is that, you know, you're I'm going to say trying to hide, because that's exactly what it is, isn't it?
In a sense, yeah, because the bras aren't exactly they're well, the bras I've got that
They're
are
not
for the prosthetics.
elegant.
No, they're pretty much like a sports bra, sort of. They're like
Yeah,
really clunky, very, very chunky.
yeah.
Um, yeah, they're not, yeah, because
Not elegant.
they need the space to be able to put the prosthetic in there. They're not, they're quite full fitting. So, which is fine. And for the most part, it's okay. It's just, I guess for me, it's the one little thing that sort of gets me. Mm.
But maybe what you can do with the experience that you're having wearing that is redesign it so that it's more elegant.
You know what? I've thought of that. I have thought of that, but I'm thinking, I don't know whether I can stretch myself into another place and where I would
Eventually,
go.
or
Mm,
put it out there and see, because there might be someone else who wants to do the same thing, so that maybe you can collaborate and do something there. Because I think that there's probably other women out there in the same situation as you that wants that elegance, and I'm sure that a prosthetic can be created with a bra that has an elegant strap and some lace and that sort of thing on it to make you feel more feminine.
yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure there is. And it's definitely a thought that's crossed my mind.
Mm.
Mm.
And all you have to do is find someone to design it for you, and God, that could be another outlet of income for you. It's quite interesting. Quite interesting. I just think about these things, but that is what it's all about. It's being creative with what you have and turning it into something, reinventing it or repurposing it to make it something that is elegant and something that's nice, so that you feel that elegance no
But
matter.
I agree with you. And the other side of that has been that there's another part of me that would just like to honor the fact that I've got one breast and I'm flat on the other side, and do a photo shoot showing that too, because that's just how it is. That's just part of my body right now.
Why don't you do it?
Yes, I
Why, find a photographer that understands and can do it in a way that is and I'm going to say elegance again, creates that elegance and shows that, because you see older women who have their photos taken with their saggy skin and their arms and their legs and everything, and they stand there and they're proud of it. So you could do the same thing. A role model is what it's all about, isn't it? It just and you know what? That's giving other people hope.
yeah, and this is why I haven't gone through with the reconstruction just yet, because there is a part that I'm thinking, do I just get a nice tattoo across it and honor the scar for what it is and make it really pretty and do some beautiful artwork on there. So there's a whole lot of things going through my mind. Once I have the reconstruction, it's done. So I've sort of been dragging it out deliberately just to process, because there is no rush for me. I know some women have the mastectomy and the reconstruction all in one surgery. My cousin, that's what my cousin did, and it was fine. It worked for her. But because I needed further treatment, that wasn't an option for me at the time.
Yeah. And so therefore you've got other options to be able to do different things, so that other women can have hope when they see you doing what you're doing. And it's showing all your vulnerability, it's
Mm,
showing up as who you are. And this is what people want: authenticity.
yeah,
And, when women are going through those sorts of things, breast cancer and having mastectomies and doing all that sort of thing, they want to see other women and understand how they're feeling, because that says that they're not alone.
yeah.
Because you can feel very alone in a space like that, where you don't think anyone understands you. And those people close to you, if they've not experienced anything like that, do not understand. I don't give a damn whether you say, I understand, and you've never experienced it. You don't understand at all.
I agree 100%. And I think that the other thing I found is I went through it and had a lot of support, which is great. But once you're through it, it's not an issue. No one realizes the challenges like we're talking about right now, about having one breast and deciding what I'm going to do with that. No one even can come close to understanding that feeling of the different emotions that go through your
Totally,
mind. So
totally.
and this is why I share my journey, because when someone comes to see me, I want them to know I have gone through different parts, different challenges in life. So there's an understanding there. And life has thrown me quite a few.
I was going to say, just through a few different challenges, I'm thinking, yeah, well, they're not just the average challenge of, which thing do I take or what do I do here? It's life-changing challenges. And you've got to show up as who you are and sharing your journey. I thank you. And giving hope to others that are out there, because there are a hell of a lot of them, a hell of a lot. We don't see it. We see, the breast cancer walk on that walk and everything like that. And it's just showing up as you, being you. And it's not making fun of it. It's actually, what is it? I don't know the words that I want to say, but it's giving yourself a respect and honor.
I was going to say honoring was the word that came to mind when you were saying that. It's honoring, myself and the process and the journey that I'm on right now. And whether, like I said, my nana actually had the same cancer when she was about 69. She's now 94, and she chose not to get a reconstruction. And she's been fine the whole way through. So it's definitely a journey, and it's honoring it. And
and looking at the lessons that you learned from that. And we talked about, the different modalities that you actually use to heal. You would be using those modalities for yourself. You would be, talking to other women who may come to you and say that I've had breast cancer and this is my experience. You can honestly talk to them and say, I understand where you're coming from. It changes the perspective of how you work with somebody when you've experienced something. When you haven't experienced it, you can work with them to go to a point of understanding, but not fully understanding where they're coming from. We can understand to a certain point, but past that point, we can't unless we've experienced it. We can
I agree.
empathize. We can empathize with them and that sort of thing, but it's not about that. It's about being present with that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and allowing them to heal. Yeah. And I honor you and thank you for going